So we are going to go ahead and get started. And I want to welcome everybody that is here this afternoon for this lunchtime budget session. I know you are taking time out of your busy day to join us today, and I appreciate it. And we are hoping, well, we won't hope, we know we're going to give you some tips that can be beneficial that you can apply in your everyday life. So what we're going to talk about, though, is this is going to be a little bit unique. So we're not just talking about budgeting. We're also going to talk about money, personality, and type, because everybody has a different personality and type. And so we're going to, and we will cover that here shortly. Oops, sorry. Oh, you know what? Sorry, guys. I was on the wrong slide here. So, okay. So yes, budgeting workshop. Thank you so much for joining us today. As I said, we're going to talk about money personality, money type, 6 steps for a budget, budget methods, and a 30-day money move, right? Because it's great that you're here today, but it won't matter if you don't make steps to improve our financial situations, right? Or change some of those habits. So we want to help you to be able to take control today. So let's look at these personalities. So Andrea was going to drop that into the slides for you. And so it's very important to understand your money personality, right? Because you may be a saver, you could be a spender. Example, I think that this should be part of everybody, even in high school, should understand where their personality is at, because we all learn about money in a different way. We can learn it from our parents, we can learn from our friends, and that all feeds into how we think about money. And with that, then it affects what you do with money, which then can affect a relationship with a boyfriend or a spouse or other family. So it's important to know what that looks like for you, right? So like what type are you? And so let's look at this document for a minute, because I don't think that, I think you can start out as one personality and you can learn and change that personality. So example, if you are a saver, right, you're going to want to save the money. If you are a spender, and I'm like, my document disappeared somewhere, so bear with me for a second. I got to find out where he went. And if you are a spender, you like to spend money, but I think you can transition through those times. So maybe you want to avoid money, right? You don't want to see where your finances are because it's just too scary of a thing for you. Or like, oh, it's probably not going to be good. And there are people that avoid this. So, but again, as you're learning tools and you're going along at different phases in your life, your personality towards money can change. And so with that, that doesn't mean that just because you're one thing now, that you're going to remain that relationship with money is going to stay the same all through your life. So you would want to be able to look at that and determine, okay, what's it look like for me? Am I anxious? Am I strategic? Do I like to control it? What do you think? Right, as far as where you fit into that. And I believe, Andrea, you were going to throw a poll up for us.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so you guys can take the poll and then identify what does it look like? Where do I think that I find in? Because I find that sometimes I can be more consistent because I'm really in one place and I'm staying on top of it. And then other times I kind of let it go a little bit. So I can be inconsistent at times with the budget, right? But and then so it just depends where you're at, okay? But what's important is, again, identifying what does it really look like, being truthful with yourself, because it does no good to lie to yourself about where you're at. And it doesn't matter, how you treated money in the past, is what you're going to do with it going forward, what with your personality. And to be able to be a saver, maybe you're going to be a security seeker. Are you a risk taker? Are you a dreamer? You know, or a compartmentalizer? I can't get the word out, right? So look at those definitions, find out where you're at, identify that, and then that will help you going forward in the other things that we're going to be doing. Okay, so let's go on to slide 2. If I can get this up here. So let's pick up. Okay, so we talked about money personality and money types, and you guys have, for those that joined us late, you do have a handout in the chat, so you can go and open that up and see what type of personality that you have, okay, and the personality type. So also in that handout, you're going to see the money personality and money type and what budget actually fits that. And so if you're a saver, the description, it says feel secure with money in the bank. A zero-based budget may work better for you. And it'll tell you why it works for you, because it gives every dollar a job. And we're going to talk about some of that actually today. Okay. We're going to go through some of these tips and about and doing the execution as well. All right. So effectively managing your money. The budget impacts your financial wellness. You know that. It's going to save you time in the future. It's going to give you control over your money, and it's going to keep you focused on your financial goals. So it's a skill that is learned. It's not something that is just inherent. We didn't all pick this up from our parents. If you did, great. They're not even really teaching it in schools. Some schools do, some do not. And so you can't even learn it in school. And we know how important it is before you get out there and to even going to college or getting out there in the real world. Being able to have a budget is key to having success in the future. But there's many different ways, as you can see in the handout, of different types of budgets that you can use. All right, so let's go look at some of those. Okay, so the 6 steps for a budget. One, you want to set up goals. Okay, so you need to identify your goals. Everything is why. If you are starting a business, the reason is why. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, why are you passionate about what you're doing? If you're going to class, why are you going to class? What is it going to get you in the end, right? So the budget is no different than that. Your why is the most important thing. The why is what's going to bring you back to that purpose. It is your purpose, and it's going to bring you back to helping you achieve those goals. So the first thing you got to do is you need to remove the negatives. Again, when you talk about money and personality, some of the things we inherit is money can be a negative thing. Depending if you saw parents fighting in your families all the time and it was over finances, then money has a negative connotation. So you have to change your mindset about money itself. And so what are you unable to do in your life because of your finances, right? So don't always think about what it's keeping me from doing. You want to think about what is it going to allow you to do, right? Once you put it, you start controlling it and you start deciding where you're going to put that money. Is there something in your financial future that makes you anxious, right? Is it that you need to start saving? You're going on a vacation, you're getting closer to retirement, you didn't start saving when you should have. So what is there something that's making you anxious? So you need to actually write this down, because when you have things on pen and paper, it's like if you're on a diet, right? You need to track that. You need to be able to look at those calories. What am I eating? It's the same thing. You have to get it out of your head, because you're like, oh, I think I did really good today. And then once you write it down, you're like, oh my gosh, I blew my diet, or I ate too much, all those little condiments, they add up. Same thing with your financial future. When you're looking at what's happening today and where you're trying to go, and we're going to talk about tracking in a minute, but the first thing is we got to set up the goals. And we got to identify our feelings and what makes us anxious about the future. Because when you can get that all on paper, then it's not just abstract floating around. You can really see what's happening. And then let's gain some positives. What would you like to do in the future, right? Write it down. It's okay. Throw it out there. Maybe it's a dream. Maybe it doesn't seem achievable. It doesn't matter. Take a look at your financial future. Okay. But so the why, we understand we got the why. We kind of know what we want to do. We have to plan it though. We have to have these goals with something called SMART. The SMART goals, you guys have probably seen this maybe in your employment, at work, when you're doing your annual performances. We all are supposed to identify, how did I do and what did I achieve based on SMART goals. So it has to be specific. Can you measure the progress towards the goal, right? And one, is it achievable? So again, you want to start small in some of these goals, and then you need to make sure they're relevant to your situation and where you're going, and what is the time for achieving that goal. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. That is key. You can say, oh, I want to go to the movies. That's a goal. I want to go to the movies. Well, okay, what do you want to do? When do you want to go? Well, I want to go on Wednesday. Um, and I want to go on Wednesday, and I want to go to the 7 o'clock movie, and I want to make sure I'm doing it this week, right? So you are now you're putting some parameters around it. And then you're like, I mean, and they actually, guys, think about it. That's a budget. That's a part of a budget piece, right? Because it falls into your entertainment, your expenses. So then the question is, do I have the money? So is it achievable? If you have the money, yes, it's achievable. Do you want to go by yourself? Do you want to go with someone else? Are you paying for them? Are you paying for yourself? Are you going to buy popcorn? Right? You can actually say, my goal is I'm going to go to the movies. I'm going to buy popcorn. I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm going at 7 o'clock. That's just a very small goal. But now it's all, you have times on it. Vacation planning. We do this a lot of times and we don't even realize it. When we're going to go on vacation, we start thinking about, I want to go, vacation is in June. And then we start putting goals around it, right? We start looking at the budgeting, planning, getting the hotel, the whole thing. All right. So um, again, I said start small, build big, because it's overwhelming. Like if you think about retirement, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to have $1 million to retire. I have to have 500,000 or whatever the case may be. And that can be very overwhelming. So what if you think about, okay, what if I just put $100 a pay period, or, $200 a month or something? That is a lot smaller and that is less overwhelming. Maybe sometimes you can only start with $5 a paycheck to put some money somewhere, to start saving, but you can do that. And by doing those small steps, then you're going to be able to achieve those goals. Think about short term first. What do I need to achieve? Do I need to start saving for the kids to go to college, or do I need to put a roof on the house? Do I need to have a car? What do I need short term? An automobile, maybe it needs some repairs, and that's important because you got to get to work, right? So, but you can start small and then you build to bigger goals. Like I would like to buy a house. Right now, I just need to be able to rent a place. I need to be able to rent an apartment, or I need to be able to rent a room. Northern Virginia area, some of these big cities, you just rent a room, and because you're going to save your other money. So that would be a short-term goal. But the long-term goal would be, I want to buy a house. And so I need a budget to be able to save, to be able to do that. Okay, let's go back to accountability. First, you're going to write your goals down, and you want to keep them in mind as you budget. You involve your entire family in this budget. So it's okay. It's okay to let friends, friends and family know, so that if you can't go somewhere and you can't participate, it doesn't hurt their feelings. You're like, look, guys, we're on a budget. We're planning for these goals. So I can't do everything I used to do. And then you can pick and choose what's those important events that you want to be able to attend. Like birthdays. If you're gonna go to a birthday party, and you're probably gonna spend money if you go out to eat dinner and etc. with it. So those are some of those things that um, you can plan for. All right. So again, but find a good accountability partner, right? So your spouse may or may not be that person to be accountable, because again, you guys have different personalities. You could work good together if you have common goals. and you come to terms on your money personalities, then you may be okay. That your spouse may be the one that can hold you accountable and go, nope, remember we said we're not going to do this. But on the other hand, if you're a spender and they're a spender, they may not be your best accountability partner, right? You need somebody else that's going to go, whoa, wait, how did you do this week? What did you spend money on? Find somebody that can help keep you accountable, just like you would do it with exercise or anything else in life. And when it comes down to accountability, and this is also going to lead us into tracking, I just want to hit real quick on execution, because well-written plans are nothing without execution, right? So the plan is only as good as the implementation. And this is where accountability and what we're going to talk about in a second, tracking, this is where it really comes in. A well thought out plan is crucial. It's the actual execution and putting it into action that determines the success. If a plan just stays on paper, right, which is great, you're getting it on paper, that's step one. But if it stays on paper, it's only an idea. It will not get you any tangible results for the future, and you will be in the same place that you are at. Execution is the bridge between strategy and reality, right? So it's important to make sure that you are executing, and it also provides learning, right? Because it helps you see unforeseen challenges and other opportunities. So you have to execute, so you're learning and you start changing how you feel about money, because it's really your blueprint on how to get there. Okay, so on tracking, I want to mention something on tracking. Okay, next, go ahead. So I may be jumping ahead on, yeah, because I kind of am when it gets there. But let's, so I'll hold my thought when it comes to, no, go back, you're good. So we talked about goals earlier. So we talked about short-term, medium, long-term. So this just puts a little bit more parameters like we just talked about around each of those definitions, right? Emergency savings. What happens if home repairs we talked about? What about something with the car? So you do need to have a short-term savings goal. The average is 3 to 6 months. Should be in the bank to be able to cover any expenses. What happens is there's a layoff. We've seen a lot of those with corporations and etc. So having money in savings is key. Medium-term goals, those annual expenses, vacations, holidays. We all have property taxes, right, that are popping up. Those are annual expenses. Your IRS taxes, right? You may have to pay taxes. It may vary each year, but you know you're going to have them. Your holidays and your vacations. What's the estimate? How much is it going to cost? 5,000? How much do you spend every year? Is it around 5? Is it 3? Is it 2? Is it going to be different this year than last year? So you always want to go through, review your budget and update it based on that. Okay, long-term saving goals, retirement, purchase of a home, and kids' college. And I want to click on retirement real quick. I want to hit on this because I've done briefings before when I talked about retirement is basically a trip, right? So again, when we go on vacation, we plan those details out normally, right? Airfare, hotels, spending money, all the various activities we want to do when we're there. But when it comes to retirement on a long-term goal, we don't think about it in details. It's really abstract. I'm going to retire one day. Well, okay, so think about it as a trip. If it's a vacation, let's do the backwards planning. Are you going to stay in the same place? Are you going to downsize your house? Are children going to be living with you, or grandchildren, right? What does retirement look like in your mind? So when you start writing that down and thinking about that, then you can plan it a little bit better. But I don't want to stay there too long because this isn't that briefing. So, but I do just want to make sure that, again, you think about that. Okay, which brings us to identify and tracking your income and expenses. So on tracking, Again, a lot of times when we sit down to go over a budget, it's like, oh, I got to go through my budget. Oh, it's that time again. I read something one time when a lady said she changed her whole mindset about having to review her budget by deciding, you know what, I'm going to make this a pleasant experience. I think I'll turn on some music. I'm going to have a glass of wine. You change the atmosphere when you're sitting down to go through the budget. So it's not like, oh, I have to do it. It's I want to do it. And something, your mind, there is a mind connection in the words that we say. So when you change what you say to, oh, I get to do this, or I want to do this, versus I have to do this, and that's for anything in life, your brain makes a different connection, and it affects your mood and your mindset. So when you sit down to track this, you want to identify all the income and all of the expenses. And so, and there's ways, again, it's in your budget. You can just pull everything out. You can go into your bank apps. They can categorize different, all your categories of where you're spending money. That's an easy way now. We didn't have that back in the past, right? I used to download the bank statements into a spreadsheet. I would export it actually, and then I would go through it myself and then kind of categorize it, copy paste or whatever down. And then I would sort it and go, oh my gosh, I spent way too much money eating out this month, right? Because you could see all those expenses with food and gas and everything. So that, and it's still possible to do that. You can still export your expenses, and especially if you have a business and you're trying to pull some of that stuff out, or you just look at your bank app, and there's all kinds of apps now that will help you do this. But you want to make sure you capture everything that is going to occur during the year. Okay. So gross income, and you're tracking based on your net income. Gross income is everything you get during the year. That's pretty self-explanatory, right? That's the one paycheck your employer is going to pay you, or all, if you're a business owner, all the profits you received before all the deductions come out. And when all the deductions come out, then of course that's leaving you with your net income. Okay, next. And net income, of course, is your take-home pay. So that's the bottom line. That's what ends up in the checking account. So your budget should always be on your net income, not your gross income. Now, if you're buying a house, and other things, like if you are trying to establish credit, they ask for your gross income, which is beneficial to you. But for you and your budget, it's net income. Okay. So let's look at an example of net income. You're going to get your gross income is, in this case, is over 3,000. There's taxes that have to come out. There could be other deductions. If you have health insurance, dental insurance, you have Social Security that comes out, taxes, federal, state taxes, your 401k. A lot of times when you start jobs, they automatically opt you in to a 401k or whatever their retirement plan is. And if you don't want to be in it, you have to opt out. So all of that is going to come out, right? And then it's going to leave you with what you're going to survive off for the rest of the month. Okay, next. But what if you do not have regular income? So you may have to budget with the irregular income. And so the way to do that is you want to calculate your income for 3 years. Okay, so total the 3 years, and then you're going to divide that by 12. And then that's going to be the average for your monthly income. So that's your starting goal. And then, of course, you're going to subtract your fixed and your variable expenses accordingly to get what your discretionary income is going to be. And discretionary income actually means that once I pay my bills, this is what I have left over at the end of the month, okay, to spend on, wants and needs. Well, basically wants at that point. But okay, next. So how you can budget with this again is opening an account, deposit your income, and then you're going to pay yourself a monthly amount based on those expenses and savings. If taxes is not held, make sure you open a separate account especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're paid 1099. You want to have a separate account so that you can be able to pay taxes at the end of the year. Now, of course, if you're a business owner, you should be paying quarterly taxes. And so you definitely should be setting that aside. And there is ways to determine what your estimated quarterly tax would be. And there's applications online. And of course, you got IRS assets to determine that as well. But that is very important because one thing we can't get away away from is taxes and of course death. So make sure you pay your taxes. All right, next, dollars. Every dollar should have a job. It should be doing something for you. So you want to make sure you're tracking again those expenses in a log or a mobile app, as we mentioned earlier. I mean, you have Acorn, not Acorn. That's more for savings, where you can just like designate $5 every paycheck or every week comes out of your account, and that's more for like investing. So that's different. That's not really savings, but for expenses you definitely want to make sure again you're using your the banks have really come up with some cool tools now, and you can do other ones that can track even subscriptions. So if you like think you lost track of your subscriptions, then it will go, and you guys have probably seen the commercials where it can find that for you. Review your credit card statements. Right, and they'll give you they do the same thing. Your credit card companies are going to do a little pie chart and show you where you're spending your money at, so it can help give you a view. There's tools like Intuit, right? QuickBooks, and they have it for business, or you could use it just for budgeting. And you attach all your accounts, and it's going to pull everything in, and then you can train it, and you can create rules to say, okay, this is half business, half personal, or this is all personal, all business, and you can do that. And it makes it so much easier, and it will track your spending. It will start preparing your tax statements and your reports for the end of the year for you. So it can make life very simple. And it's like 25 or 30 bucks a month. So, and then that way you're not having to go to every single credit card statement. Everything will feed in. I mean, you still do need to look at your statements, but it will pull every account into one place. And it makes life so much simpler if you keep it up to date. Carry around a notebook and a pen. Record those different expenses. You know, if you're a tracker and you can do that, some people that's too much for them, but at least collect the receipts for the month. And again, since we all use debit cards, a lot of times we're not using cash as much, then you can do that. Or you can create your own Excel spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet that I created a long time ago, and I still use it. So I put everything up there. So all those normal expenses for the house, utilities, how much I'm allocating, you know, for gas, for groceries, business expenses, things that I need to remember that are once a year, maybe annual, that I have to pay. So everything goes onto one spreadsheet, and you can create formulas, and you can do all kinds of stuff. And there are samples out there. Just go out there and Google budget spreadsheet. Or budget, and it could be a Word document. So there's a lot of examples out there that you can find. Okay. Now, as you're starting your budget, you're going to think about your fixed, variable, and periodic expenses, which I've kind of talked about in different ways, but now we're going to look at it a little bit more in detail. So the first one.
One question.
Uh-huh.
So what applications do we have to download all the credit card into a spreadsheet? Is there an application available that allows you to consolidate all the expenses?
Oh, that's Intuit, QuickBooks.
Intuit?
Yeah, yep, QuickBooks. So when you sign up for that, I think they're one of the basic ones is like $25 a month. Okay. And then you go in and you link all your accounts. Like you can do all your credit cards, all your bank accounts, everything into one place. And then it will track everything. So, and then, but when it comes for your business, if you categorize it only for business, when you're going through each transaction, and you can say this is business, then what it's going to do is it's going to start creating your profit and loss statement. It's going to start creating your Schedule C for you. It's going to, all of the business expenses will feed over into these reports. So it's very nice. So if you spend money on advertising, you know, or mileage, for gas, for repairs, whatever, it's all going to be there. supplies. But the nice thing is your personal stuff is there too. Not that you need it, but if you have a home office, which many people do nowadays, right, for your business, then you can things like your utilities and your like your cell phone can be all business, but say your utilities for your water, your cable, electric, all of that. Since the IRS allows you a portion of that for your taxes, you can split it. So if it's 15% of your home office is what you can account for your taxes, then you can actually set up a rule and say 15% is business and the rest of it's personal. And then that way it's going to pull it into your calculations for the end of the year. And so it's very nice. And you can say, apply this rule going forward for all future transactions. Then it automatically does it. As soon as it recognizes, like it's Comcast, it's going to recognize that it has a rule attached to it and it's going to divide it up. So, okay. And so fixed expenses, these are the same. This is like what we just talked about. Car loans, rent, mortgage, insurance premium. It could be memberships for something. It could, whether it be business, and you can have two separate budgets, right? You probably should. You need to have a budget. If you're a business owner, you need to have a budget for your business, for how much you're going to spend for advertising, supplies, etc. And then the other, you should have a budget for your personal expenses. And you may have memberships on both sides of these, and you could have rent, mortgages, insurance, and even car loans on both sides, business or personal as well. But I mean, they're easy to track. It's just getting everything written down.
Yes, Jackie.
Yes. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Oops, sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I didn't know if you had a question.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So those are fixed expenses. All right. So now let's move on to the next type, and that's going to be your variable. Now, variable are your groceries, dining out, entertainment, personal care. These are things that is always going to change, right? 1 month you may dine out a lot more than you do the next month. But again, part of the budget is once you look at wants and needs, I mean, as you looked at needs, you've got to determine how much can you allocate towards these variable expenses, because this is more of a, personal care items may be a need. The rest, groceries are a need, but some of this other stuff is a want, right? And that's your discretionary income. Once all the important things are taken care of, then I look at how much I have for these expenses. Okay, next. Periodic. These can be paid annually or every 6 months. It could be, again, we talked about property taxes, car insurance, car registration. These are things that will pop up. So calculate the amount you need to save each month. So if a lot of times we get hit, now Virginia is bigger, like they have more property tax than other states. So if it's $6,000 for property taxes coming up for your vehicles, well, that's pretty hefty to have to try to pull that out of your budget one time. So what you want to do is you want to divide it up by the number of months. So, we'll do a simple one. If it's $1,200, that's $100 a month. You need to make sure that you're saving in your account and you're accounting for it in your budget. Your monthly budget, say $100 a month, is going towards your property taxes. So that way, when it's due, you have all the money sitting there and you can just pay it easily. And I would probably highly recommend that you move that money into your savings account, right? And not leave it in a checking account, because it won't last. Okay, so next. We've been talking about this all throughout the presentation. Needs, savings, and wants. So needs, what is it? If you look at the pyramid chart, it's all those things for basic security and safety. So needs are going to be, we need a house, we need shelter overhead, right? We need food to eat. A need may be that, of course, a car, because you need to be able to get to work. Savings. So once your needs are covered, then you want to allocate the savings based on your goals. So again, am I planning for college? Am I planning for a trip? Am I planning for retirement? Those things. And again, part of this is where your money mindset comes in. You may, in the savings mode, you may say, I need to have a secure retirement. So maybe for you, retirement is a need. Right after you pay your house and all your basic bills, maybe the retirement is key next, right? Or you pay yourself first, then you pay the other bills. because you want to make sure that you have a secure retirement, because maybe you've seen other people that are really struggling with this, and the future is uncertain, right? And a lot of times, and what benefits will be available by the time people get to retirement. So anyway, savings, once your needs are covered, you allocate that once, is the money you have left over, also called your discretionary funds. So after you do all your needs, you do all your savings, then that's the money you can go out and, have fun with, go get your nails done, go out to a movie, go out to eat, etc. Okay, next. So the question is it a need or a want? If do you need professional attire and a car? That could be a need, again, for a realtor, for any business owner, right? Or somebody that's even just to get to work. If there's no mass transportation in your town, a car is a need, or you will not have a job to bring money home from. Professional chef may need premium cookware to do his job. Some students may need computers to do their study. So again, determining the need is really up to you, right? To go, this is a basic foundational thing that I must have, like internet. If we did not have internet in our house, I mean, could you survive without internet? Yeah, you could use your phone all the time, maybe. But in some places like where I live, my phone doesn't work very good. So I have to connect it to the internet when I get home and even do internet calling. So for me, an internet is definitely a need because I need it to do my job, to do my business, and to have decent communications with the world, basically. So, okay. So you determine what that need is and you categorize it as such. So when you're doing this budget worksheet, I highly suggest that next to each expense, you talk about, is it fixed? Is it periodic? Is it variable? And then you may want to put a little N or W next to it, right? Is it a need or is this a want? A vacation, okay, it's more of a want. I mean, do you have to go do the full 1 week somewhere? Or can you go and do a shorter version that's a stress reliever? Or can you do some things during the week that are free, go to a park or go do something that helps relieve stress? Don't just let all the stress build up and have to go take a 1 or 2 week vacation. Depending on your goals, maybe 1 year it's a need, maybe 1 year it's a want, so you decide. Okay, next. Needs that look like wants. So again, we just talked about that. Again, you decide what's crucial to your well-being. For some people it's a want, for some it's a need. If you cannot get to a gym to do what you need to do to lift weights, to become stronger, then life is not the same. Then that could be a need, because you may not have any other method to be able to get there and do that same workout. And maybe you're recovering from, a health situation. So you need some therapy. So again, this is your list. You decide what's crucial. Okay. Plan to action. You've set goals. You've identified income, expenses, your saving goals. And again, identify, are they short-term, long-term? You can even separate. The nice thing about doing stuff in either Word document or Excel is you can add those columns where you can filter. So you can say, okay, I just want to look at all my long-term goals this week, or this month. I want to see how I'm doing. How am I tracking on those? So you can put them in there, and then, and if you don't know Excel, there's lots of online courses, YouTube, etc., that can help you learn that. But it's very beneficial to be able to filter out and sort and see things as you need to see it as you're moving along. Okay, so but now is the time to put that in action. And one of the ways you can do that is with the 50, 30, 20 rule, right? So you break down your expenses into 3 categories. So necessary gets 50%. Okay, discretionary gets 30%, and your savings and your debt payments are 20%. So it's a very simple rule. There's different ones out there, but again, this one is great for beginners. It's simple, and everybody can do this, right? And for a savings goal, 20% is not really a lot. If you think about it, if you make $1,000, if you're making $1,000 a month, then you're putting 20% away for savings and any debt payments. So that is not a lot. Look, if you actually discretionary is getting more percentage here than your savings and your debt. So you could, if you feel, depending on your personality type, you could reverse that. If you're the saver and you really want to start it out, you could start with 30% savings and debt payments and 20% discretionary. So you, again, decide, you have that flexibility. Okay, next. The envelope method. I remember this from way back when we were taught the envelope method. Sometimes, a lot of things are online now. And so we're doing everything, you're working maybe in a spreadsheet with your budget, and then and the money's all online. You don't really see it or touch it very much. And some people may need to touch the money. So one of the methods is the envelope method. So you could say, okay, I have a vacation. I have my entertainment money, my groceries money, etc. And there still are people that do not have bank accounts and they only operate off cash. And for them, this is a great method because basically each of those categories, you put the cash in. You get your paycheck, you cash your paycheck, and then you divide the money up into each envelope. But the key here is you have to have discipline for something like this, because you can't raid one envelope because you went overboard in the other envelope, right? That goes against the whole purpose of what you budgeted for the envelope method. So it's a great way to put money aside. Like if you know your car, you're gonna need money for a car to fix some things. You got some brakes, some maintenance coming up. Then you have a car maintenance fund and you stick the money in the envelope over there. Now, so again, it's a way to do it offline in the physical versus doing it online, say in your spreadsheet, where you're allocating this money and making sure it's all divvied up. Again, if you are saving, make sure your savings account is capturing all of the things you're saving for. That's where your spreadsheet's important, right? Because if you're saving for a car, you're saving for a vacation, you're saving for expenses. Sometimes you can have more than one savings account at your bank. Maybe you have one for your emergency fund and that one never gets touched. The other one is the savings for everything else. So again, just think about it. What works for you, because everybody is different. All right, next. Pay yourself first. That's a reverse budgeting strategy. So you can save money from your income first. And that's actually, we do that. And that's why most employers are saying, we're opting you in for automatic 10% or whatever the case is that they're doing, 1% or 2%. So again, employers automatically are taking money from your paycheck straight into their retirement plan. That is one of these methods of reverse budgeting strategy. But again, if you're a business owner, then you have to have the discipline to do it yourself. If you're an entrepreneur, you gotta pay yourself first, or you gotta make sure as soon as those needs are met that you're planning for retirement. Because let me tell you, it comes quick, right? Time is speeding up. I swear, if we can measure it, it seems like it really is. Days go by faster, seasons go by faster, and retirement is coming a lot sooner. So you've got to make sure you're doing that. And then we talk about in other presentations, we talk about compound interest, right? If you don't start putting that money somewhere when you're younger and sooner, you lose out on years of that money doubling and growing for you. So it is very important to pay yourself first. Budgeting method will benefit everybody, small goals, large goals. Okay. But again, it's part of getting control of those financial habits. But again, don't beat yourself up. Give yourself some grace and mercy if you mess up. But just taking a step and starting something is better than doing nothing. Remember, execution is the bridge between strategy and reality. And you want to live in reality, right? So that means you got to execute. Okay, next. You want to prioritize your budget. Make sure you're not spending more than you make. Common sense, right? But we do it. I'm telling you, people do it all the time. That's where credit cards are getting rich. And most of those interest rates now are up to 20, 30%. It is crazy, the rates that they are up to. One of our presentations that we do, we talk about credit card debt. An average of $9,000 can take 30 years to pay off. Because again, especially if you're only paying those minimum payments. So it's important to prioritize your budget and don't spend more than you make. Even with the credit card, if you use a credit card, make sure you can try to pay it off within that month or the next few months. Okay. But balance it. You want to have fun in life, right? You don't want to all be stressed over it. Again, we're trying to change the mindset. Money is not our enemy. A budget is not our enemy. A budget is a roadmap to help us where we are going. Just like think of it as your GPS, your navigator, your Google Maps. It's going to help you to get to where you want to go, to that final destination. Okay. Next. Avoid the unplanned spending. This is kind of crazy when you look at these statistics. 73% of Americans and most of their purchases are unplanned, also known as impulse buying. And I am guilty of that as well. You know, so we all do it at some point. If not, you are a severely disciplined person, and kudos to you if you have never did an impulse buy. And it can be linked to stress levels. You've heard of those, whether people say shopping therapy, women say it all the time. I need to go get some therapy, shopping therapy. But we do have to be careful of that. So, but other impulse buying happens on social media. 48% of users have impulsively bought on the item the first time they've seen on social media. 47 report being most likely to make purchases when shopping in bed. So it's pretty interesting. Our world has changed. Social media is a big influence, even when it comes to our finances. So we do have to watch that. Okay, now the goal here is to adjust again, right? It's a roadmap, just like Google will sometimes lead you in the wrong direction. It'll tell you to go 2 blocks down when you can turn immediately. You have to adjust, and sometimes you ignore what Google says and you do it yourself. Well, adjust your goals the same way, right? You don't ignore, you want to learn from the mistakes you made, but again, you don't want to beat yourself up. And again, life happens. So life is going to happen and things will change. So just sit down, look at the numbers, adjust your goals, and figure out what you can do. Do you need to increase your income? Do I need to get a second job for a short while to achieve some of those goals? Because maybe you have a short-term goal, and having a second job for like a year, it's going to help you achieve that short-term goal, right? It's going to take some relief off. Maybe it's going to pay down some debt, take some of that financial stress off you. I believe they said employers, when employees at work, probably, I think it's 70% of them are focused on finances instead of their job. At least at some point. There's like 20 hours a week or 10 hours a week that many times the employees are, instead of doing their job, they're focused on their finances. It adds stress, right? It can kill relationships. So how do you get to where you need to go? Okay, sometimes it's about sacrifice. Maybe I got to suck it up and I got to get a second job. Maybe I need to go back to school at night because I'm going to increase my income that way. But think about this. What can you do? Because you have the power within you to achieve those goals and make a difference. Reduce your expenses. That's another one. Okay, maybe for 6 months I don't eat out as much, or eat out at all. That's probably hard to do, but just figure out where you could reduce some expenses. You have a premium subscription for something. Maybe you don't need the premium. You can go back to a basic cable, getting away from all these channels that we never watch. Go back to maybe just some basic stuff, or get rid of cable completely. And because there's so much streaming out there now. Keep track and stay accountable. Okay. All right. Next. You have to see your numbers. Visual, the brain connects with what we see, right? So you have to see this on paper. We talked about that. You can't have abstract numbers floating around in your head, abstract goals. It does not work. Your brain is a computer. It will do what you tell it to do. And it will do, so if you're focused on something and says, I am going to achieve this year, your brain knows that it has to start working in that direction to help you achieve it, because that's the input that you're putting into it. But if you go, oh, I may not, those words right there can actually affect your mindset, right? So we have to be very careful about what we say, and that's in all things in life, but especially here. But get the numbers on paper and do your reviewing and do your tracking. Okay. Next. Delay gratification. We kind of talked about that already. Do we need to put some things off and just wait a little bit longer? Or can I go find it cheaper, right? Facebook Marketplace is my friend, because I have gotten some great deals off Facebook Marketplace versus going to buy something brand new. You can get something new off Marketplace, or you can get it like new, right? And so you can either delay it, or you can find other sources to save you money at that time. But that's very hard now. We're becoming an instant society. So for younger generation, delay gratification is tough. And that's, again, where we got to start retraining yourself. Okay. Next. Remind yourself, okay, if they don't go the way you plan, it's okay, right? And maybe you start out with one form of budgeting and you go to a different form of budgeting, or ways to pay off your debt. You know, there's different ways to even pay down debt. So you got to find what works for you, but create the routine and it becomes part of your daily thinking. Put it on your, like they say with a relationship with your spouse, have a date night once a month, every 2 weeks, whatever. Put it on your calendar and make it intentional to do it. Same thing with this budgeting review and your tracking. Put it on your calendar. Again, set the ambiance the way you want it. Put on some happy music, whatever, and then do it. And then that way it becomes something you can look forward to versus something you dread and you really don't want to do it. So we just got to change the way we think about money. But it will become a part of your routine the more you do it. And then it's going to multiply, and you're going to start seeing all these doors open up. And I tell you, if by having that money in the bank, like the emergency fund, when something happens, that's when people, can you imagine the amount of stress that is eliminated immediately because there's an emergency fund there, right? So you definitely, and especially in this day and age when we, like, look at COVID, people have had to tap into money because of COVID, layoffs, all kinds of things. We don't know what the world events are going to be. So plan ahead, be proactive, and it will help when things occur. Okay. But don't quit. Just keep trying. We all make mistakes, but again, just keep trying. It's like a diet, it's like a business. You never failed until you stop, right? Look at Edison with the light bulbs 1,000 times to get it right, but he never failed. He just learned, and he applied what he learned, and that was his mentality. So if we do that with our budget and tracking and being accountable, it's the same thing, right? You won't fail. You may learn a lot of things along the way, but you will never fail unless you just quit. Okay, and with that, again, look at the information that we have. There's some resources and tools on the handout that was dropped into the chat menu that you guys can look at and see if any of those will work for you. Okay, and the next thing is you want to do a 30-day, the last thing is a 30-day money move. This is where you need to go through for 30 days and take control and start tracking your money, right? So this week, within the next day or two, just write down all your expenses. If you can just do that, you've already started the execution phase and you're moving forward to making a change. And then just start tracking it. And if there's anything that we can do to help, we are here. You can reach out to us. And we'd be glad to send you a couple samples of a budget if needed to help get you going in the right way. Okay. Next. Oh, yep. Okay. There are some of the resources. Again, you can reach out to me or Andrea if you need any information. Here's some budgeting apps. Here again, if you are, if you're just trying to save some money that you forget about. Oh, I do want to mention something, because there was something one of our credit unions did. Christmas gets a lot of people, and a credit union had like a Christmas fund. And basically it's a savings account, but it was one you didn't even think about. So you could set up your allotment with your employer, right? Where it's direct pay. It could be $50 every pay period. It could go into a separate account. And then it just went in there. And then right before Christmas, you would come and take out the money and go buy the stuff that you wanted to do. So it's kind of the same concept for saving, but it's really no different than a separate savings account, but they just didn't really let you access it until the end of the year. And so they called it the Christmas fund. But one way to, if there's a bank that is not near you, it makes, well, I was going to say it makes it more difficult to access the money. That's probably a good place to save money. But nowadays you can transfer between all the accounts, so it doesn't really matter anymore. So, but here's some resources. Check them out. And again, it's just a few of them, and see if they will fit your needs. And then here's the resources, some of these that we referenced for the budgeting strategies. You can go through and read some of this information as well. That should be in your handout, and see if any of that can help you. Okay. And citations, which is important, and that's just their disclaimer. So this is just educational training, etc. So, okay. So with that, I again want to thank you guys for being here today. And if there's any quick questions I can answer, I'll be glad to take those for a few minutes. We're kind of over 30 minutes, but I just wanted to see if there's anything I can help you guys with.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you guys again for coming on, and please reach out if we can be of assistance in any way.
So, only question I have is regarding the recording. How can I get a copy of the recording?
You will get a copy. I will post it on social media and also in your email.
Thank you.
All right.
Andrea. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a blessed day and happy budgeting.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.